Hello. Let me blow up here. So one of the things we're looking at today is the shape and color of an egg. Okay. So one of the things we're looking at here with this egg is why is it oval shaped like it is? And so I did some research on it actually, and one of the things I found out is that they did a study in 2017, and they believe that the oval shape is what they call it. So it's symmetrical shape. So if we were to cut the egg in half this way, okay, it would be the same on both sides. If it's asymmetrical, that means that it's different on one side. Usually it has a pointier end. Okay, and we'll look at a couple of these here in a minute. So what this egg is for the chicken egg, it's pretty symmetrical, round this way. If you were to cut it in half, it's pretty close to the same on both sides. So what they did in 2017 is they decided that, so I'm setting that down so I don't drop it. They decided that the more that a bird is in flight, so the more that it flies, that the more asymmetrical that the egg would be. Okay, that means again it's got usually a pointier end. So the more it flies, the less symmetrical it be, the less round and oval shape that it is. As the study that they came up with. Okay, so a chicken egg, that chicken doesn't fly very much, so it's going to have a pretty round, oval shaped egg. So let me do a switch here. And as we see with eggs here, okay, we have a lot of different types of eggs. Okay, so this one back here in particular, this would be your asymmetrical egg, how it has that really pointy end over here. Okay, even this one here, this bullfinch little one, you can see it's got a really pointy end on this side. Okay, same with this one here for the swift. So swift flies a lot, finches are a lot of flying, and then you have a swan over here. Think about a swan. Is a swan going to fly a lot or swim more? Okay, and you got a big, nice round egg there to go from. Okay, so the asymmetrical eggs, and this is what they came up with. So they charted thousands of eggs in egg size to go from. So what they found out is you can see that like this egg here of an oriole flies a lot would be if we cut it in half this way, that it's much bigger on the left than it is on the right. I should say wider on the left. It gets pointy on the right side. Okay, you look at the brown hawk owl down here. It has a very, very round egg. So elliptical wise, so if you look at it elliptical, this egg, that is not a very straight line, but imagine that's a straight line. That egg there is pretty much the same on both sides, very elliptical shape. And then you see this one, we cut that in half. It is not very the same on both sides. So that would be asymmetrical. So the farther over on the graph you go to the right, the more pointy and stuff it gets. Okay, the over on the left, the more equal it is on both sides. It has a lot of symmetry, asymmetry on the other side. Okay, so that is according to the study in 2017, and there's people who disagree with this study. So scientists are still fighting. They don't really understand why bird eggs are shaped the way that they are. So this study determined that they think it was based off of how much a bird flies. And that's how it develops. There are other scientists who believe that the egg shape is the way it is because of where the nesting of the bird would be. If it is a nest that is in, going to be on the ground, where it doesn't have to, it's not going to roll away very much, or there's a danger of it rolling out of the nest and breaking on the ground or falling a long distance, it can be more round. It doesn't have to be elliptical shape. Where if you have a bird that is putting a nest on a big ledge on a cliff, well, that bird doesn't want a round egg that's going to roll a lot, so it would be very pointy, is what some people believe. So a pointy egg, when bumped, actually just spins in a circle more than rolls away. Okay, so if we take a chicken egg, if you can see my chicken egg here very well, and you bump it around and move it around, it's going to roll a lot more. That's why I'm trying to set it in a good spot here so that I don't lose it and let it roll off on my desk here at home and splatter all over my floor. I don't want to clean that up tonight. Okay, so that is one. So two of the reasons they believe the egg is shaped the way it is. So one, again, for where it's nesting is what some scientists believe, and then these new scientists in 2017 believe that it is based off of how much a bird is in flight. Okay, so again, scientists are still debating. They don't really actually know why birds' eggs are shaped the way they are. They just have beliefs from there. So if we would go off the asymmetry, the 2017 study about the birds that are in flight, what they determined was that the birds in flight would have to be more aerodynamic so they would produce smaller, pointier eggs. Ones who are not were able to create it. Well, and the actual interesting part that I found out, so I've done some lot more research this year on eggs and stuff than I ever have. So one of the things I found out is the egg shape is actually not determined by the shell. Okay, the egg shape is actually determined by the membranes. So going back to yesterday, Monday's project is the egg parts. The membrane itself actually forms the shape, and then the yolk and the albumin and everything in there are inside the membrane, and then the shell is actually formed over the top of that. And actually, Chaz in class was just telling me when they were doing a lot of chickens and stuff that they have had chickens lay eggs before that only had a membrane. They didn't even have a shell on them, which I think is kind of crazy in itself too, to go in there and you just find an egg with inside a membrane or a clearish membrane instead of a shell. And so here's what, so one of the other interesting things I found out about eggs is they've done a study, and again, this is debatable, but they did a study of the different types of bird orders, and there's different types of bird orders. So things like all the penguins together is an order, all the sparrows, all the falcons, things like that. And they did this study, and they found out that the birds that live in the colder areas, the colder climates, so way up north here, or getting down south more, kind of in the cooler climates, they had found or mapped all these birds and found out that the colder the place, the darker the egg itself was. Okay? The reasoning being for that is that the sun warms up things that are darker faster than when things are colder. Okay, good example. You go outside in the middle of summer, you got on a black t-shirt, and that sun just hits you, and you can just feel that shirt just warming up and the sun beating down on you. Where you go outside with a light colored shirt on, and you do feel a little bit cooler, not as hot with the sun being absorbed by that hot weather. So they believe that the eggs are darker, so that way when the mom or the dad, if they're sitting on it, go off to eat, find food, water, things like that, the eggs will absorb the sun and help keep them warmer when they are not being sat on. Okay? So they decided that the lighter colored, brighter colored eggs are here closer to the equator. And again, there's a lot of variations on a lot of these things. So it's just an interesting finding when they plotted this. It's not necessarily proving that it's true. It's a theory. In science, we have a lot of theories that they try to prove that are true. There are a lot of times in science, there are always exceptions to the rule. Okay? So, this bright white egg is actually a lot of times chicken eggs are scrubbed and stuff to be a little bit whiter, but some of those are sometimes brown. We have some brown eggs in the incubator and at the school. I haven't candled those for you guys because they're really hard to candle and see anything in with them being darker. But again, it's an interesting finding as we research things through. So here's what I want you to think about. So if we have a puffin lives in the Arctic. Okay, Arctic is north like northern Canada, things like that. If you have a puffin that has that and it spends more time swimming than flying. So based on the findings that we have, right? So it spends more time swimming than flying and that it lives in the cold weather. Think about what would you predict its egg to look like? Okay, and here's what your job is to finish after you watch this video. I want you to go in and I want you to look up the puffin. First of all, think about what its thing would be. If it lives in the cold and it spends more time swimming than flying, based off the discoveries that they've said, you would expect what? Yes, I'm waiting for an answer. Still waiting. Got an answer? Cold. Cold should determine that it is a darker colored egg. The more time swimming and flying should say, hey, it's probably a pretty round egg. It's not going to have a big pointy end on it. Okay, your job is to go look that up. Find me a puffin, or go look up a puffin egg and see what it looks like. I don't know. Okay, so the next one I want you to look up is a red-throated hummingbird. So this is actually a male hummingbird. They don't lay the eggs, but it's probably one you've seen a little bit more often. Or the ruby-throated hummingbird. You can probably imagine why it was called the ruby-throated hummingbird there by the neck. So the females do not have this brightly colored neck, but those are ones you figured you probably have seen more, the ruby colored ones. So they live all over North America. They migrate. We talked about the migration of those a little bit in class. Thinking about that, so they stay in warmer areas all the time. They're all up and down North America, up into Canada, going down to Mexico when they migrate. Its wings beat up to 53 times a second. That's crazy. 53 times a second. And so every 1,001. 53 times. So very good flyers. What would you expect their eggs to look like, knowing they live in warmer areas and that they are very good flyers? They literally fly all up and down the United States and Canada and Mexico. So you can think, okay, how would that look egg-wise? Okay. So warmer weather tells you probably a lighter colored egg, kind of like my chicken egg here. And the 53 times per second, so if we go by the study they did in 2017, it tells you it's probably pretty teardrop shape, which would mean that it's got the pointier end on one side and the rounder end on the other side, kind of like a teardrop. Okay, again, check it out. Again, maybe there's exceptions to the rule. Check out in Google real quick what a ruby-throated hummingbird egg looks like. Okay. A couple more slides here on here. So an ostrich, got the ostrich is a flightless bird, right? One of the flightless birds of the world, and it lives in the warm plains of Africa. Right? So knowing that it lives in a warm place, it's flightless, going off of the two studies we've kind of looked at, right? Warmer weather tells you it's probably what color of an egg, dark or light. Think about that. And then a flightless bird, so it doesn't fly. Would you expect a round egg, or would you expect a more oval and pointy egg? Now, think about those. Check out an ostrich egg. Ostrich egg is the largest egg in the world. They are crazy large, so check out how big they are also. And my last question for you here, it's going to be a quick one here. Where would you expect this type of egg to be laid at? Would you expect this to be more in a warm weather area or a cold weather area? And then what I want you to do real quick is check out a red grouse. Okay, look that up and see where in the world do those birds live, and again base it off of the egg color itself. Okay, as you research these things, look them up. Definitely shoot me a quick email or send me a comment on this on the classroom of some interesting things that you found out. And then check out some of those really pointy eggs, those teardrop shaped eggs, if you have some time today. Okay. Have a good day. Enjoy. Let me know if you have any questions.